true crime. Why are so many of us fascinated by that? Why are some people glued to every second of a trial? Well, that's the premise behind a new book and podcast appropriately called Trial Watchers. The idea for it came out of one of the biggest trials in recent memory, the Alec Murdaugh double murder case. Well, here to tell us more about that are Neil Gordon and Mike Pechenik, co-authors. And they're also on the podcast for Trial Watchers. And we also have WSAV's Dylan James, who helped write part of the book. So gentlemen, thank you so much for being here with us in our studios today.
Thanks for having us, Patty.
Thank you very much.
Now, Neil, we're going to start with you, and we're going to have to address what you called it yourself, the journalistic elephant in the room, your relationship with Becky Hill, the clerk of court in the Murdaugh case, who you co-authored a book with called Behind the Doors of Justice. And since that book's release, you kind of distanced yourself from her because it was later revealed that she plagiarized, and then she was accused of jury tampering. But you addressed that right up front in your book. Why did you think that was important for people to know?
Well, you just believe in full disclosure if you're a journalist, and I wanted to disclose, you know, everything that occurred once I learned that she admitted that she plagiarized it, and then the steps that we took to try to right the wrong. And so, appropriately enough, I put it in the preface, and she plagiarized the preface of the previous book.
And you said right the wrong. Some of the proceeds from the book are actually going to help some of the victims in the Alec Murdaugh case, correct?
Yeah, we donated about $2,800 to the Community Foundation there in the Low Country, and you're right, the Gloria Satterfield's charity and Stephen Smith in their honor. So again, an opportunity to do some good after some bad occurred.
So Trial Watchers, the idea for that came out of this case that your wife also was watching very closely. She was there in the Colleton County Courthouse. Mike, tell us how you came into this too. Where did the whole idea for the Trial Watchers come from, and why did you think this is something we just need to do?
So Neil and I have been working together on and off for about the past 25 years. He was my very first news director in Augusta, Georgia, and so we've kept in touch. And while he was working on Behind the Doors of Justice, he called me and said, hey, Melissa, my wife, just got back from the Low Country. She shot a bunch of great pictures and some videos of the circus surrounding that trial. And he suggested at first that we do another documentary on the Alec Murdaugh case. And I said, Neil, that's been done before. Netflix just put one out. It's on HBO. But based on what you're telling me about all these great characters that Melissa came across, I think the story really here is about the trial watchers, the people who sometimes put their lives on hold to travel hundreds, sometimes thousands of miles to wait in line for 5-6 hours at a time to get into that courthouse to watch the proceedings in person.
Okay, and you guys also have your podcast out there, and you guys discuss all this. What other cases do you discuss, or is it mainly focused on the Murdaugh case?
So I wrote a chapter about some of the high-profile cases I covered as a TV reporter in the Atlanta area, specific to that market, but some of the cases in Augusta as well in my first job, and my fascination with how these court proceedings played out. But I told the story through the lens of some of the people who followed my coverage at the time, people who were hanging on my every tweet, participating in social media groups to uncover facts of the case. And I talked to them about what's your why? Why are you so into these trials? And got a lot of interesting, fascinating tidbits from those folks.
What do you think the why is then?
There's a lot of reasons. Yeah, a lot of reasons. We talked.
Not a simple answer, is it?
It's not. But we interviewed a media psychologist who's looked into this issue extensively, and there are a couple of reasons. Number one, and women by and large are the true crime fans, right? Their principle, they want to see the bad guy go to prison, the good guy prevail. They want to put the pieces of the puzzle together. And in some cases, they want to learn about how to avoid becoming the victim
protect
of a crime.
ourselves.
Exactly.
Right.
And the other part is a lot of women have gone through trauma in their past life, and so it's an opportunity for them to seek justice for maybe justice that they didn't get. And so they sit in the courtroom and they take notes and they see it through to the end. So touching.
And Dylan, you wrote a chapter in the book, and before you came to work at WSAV as a digital reporter,
right,
you work with these guys,
yes,
and you have a chapter called Life Imitating Art. What did
right,
you learn, and what did you want to get across to people?
Well, what I learned is that this phenomena is not new. The true crime obsession is not new. My chapter in particular looks at movies and television, the visual storytelling medium. As long as I believe we have seen ourselves on the screen, we have had a desire, of course, to want to see the best of ourselves on the screen. Along with that, there is an inherent desire to see not just the worst of ourselves, but the worst of the worst, abnormal in a way. Because, and this is something that you both
The
were
fascination
just
with the
alluding to.
macabre.
Yes, the fascination and the idea that you can be an observer, not a participant, free from consequence. And how does what we see in movies, impact our society, sociology? I mean, it's a wash with all of these different angles that I went into studying movies, studying culture and context.
Well, clearly there is so much to discuss about this. We're just touching on it.
We're going to continue with the podcast.
I
Yes,
know.
we
I know.
are.
I'm
Dylan and
I think we have more material now
antsy
for the
talking
next
about
podcast.
this. It's my forte. Yes.
Okay, so for our viewers who are thinking, okay, I want to learn more about this and the book, where can they go? Where do they get the book, and where can they watch the podcast?
Well, trialwatchers.com is the place to go, and it has all the information related to articles and videos that Mike and I have produced, and also the podcast, and then a link to purchase the book as well.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Thank
Thanks,
you.
Patty.